Hello, friends, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm super excited for today's guest, Sydney. I met her through Instagram. She runs a jewelry business, but I'll let her tell you more about herself.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you,
Yeah,
Whitney, for having me. And very excited to meet you in person at Seek. So,
I know.
a little bit about me. My name is Sydney Tanner, newly married. We just hit 3 months of marriage. Originally from Minnesota, but just moved to Dallas right after getting married. And my husband and I love it here. The weather is amazing. We love the heat. And then, yeah, I have a jewelry business called Hippie DU. I started it the spark notes as I started it going into college. So 6 years ago, which is really wild. And it's been a really great journey of just like the highs and lows and in betweens. And I know, Whitney, you can attest, like being a business owner, it's beautiful, but also challenging and comes with challenges you would never expect. But it's like the greatest blessing ever. And I have so much experience and abundance now from it. And so I'm so grateful for it and just the community it's built and all the things.
Yeah, I would agree. Business is so fun, and that's obviously our
Yes.
topic for today. So
Yes.
I'm so excited to chat. But yeah, I Sydney reached out to me first on Instagram after Seek last year.
Hmm.
She's like, "Hey, you want to share about my jewelry?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah! Like, who doesn't love cute jewelry?" And I was actually meaning to put some on this morning, but I forgot. Mom life.
It happens.
It happens. Yeah. So we're going to kind of talk about like just some advice and some tips on starting your own Catholic business. And kind of a lot of them might kind of be focused more just to like business in general too, because I feel like a lot of them just kind of go hand in hand.
Totally.
And one thing that I feel like when I first started my business that I had so like when I asked people for like what's one piece of advice,
Mm.
I feel like everyone told me to start your LLC and a business bank account. That was kind of like
Yeah,
my
that's good.
first like do this first before anything else. I don't know. That was kind of my like make it or break it piece of advice that I feel like everyone was telling me.
Yes, that. And I would also say that goes hand in hand with money, right? Money is like probably the biggest blessing of running a business and the most stressful piece. And
Yep.
so, in tandem with those two things, I would say figure out what in the heck you're going to do when it comes to tax season.
Mm,
Because I tried QuickBooks, was not for me.
yep.
And so now I work with an accountant just because I
Mm,
like to have that one on one contact and communication. I got the reference from my dad. She works with a bunch of small businesses, but I'd rather pay the like $400 accountant fee than like
yep.
be like, am I even doing this right on QuickBooks? I
Mm,
tried QuickBooks for like 2 months and I was like, nope, this is not for me. I'm so
uh-huh.
confused.
Yep, yep, I would agree, and yeah, QuickBooks can be used to, like, track expenses, right? Like, kinda, like,
Yes.
categorizing things,
Yeah.
so that is an option. I've always just opted for a Google spreadsheet to, like, track
Yeah.
expenses, and
That's
then
good.
I do also my husband and I, we work with our accountant who does all of our taxes,
Hmm.
so, just depending on what your preference is, but, like, hiring someone out in that area is also, like it's, like, the next thing on my list.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah.
So Whitney and I just went, well, I was in person at the Heart Conference. You were
Mhm.
online. Did you get a
Yep.
chance to review any of the talks at all or still going through 'em?
I just listened to the first 2. I'm
Okay.
working through Lindsay and Evie's, like, their second one,
Yes.
and it's, like, so there's so much in it.
Yes, there is so much. They went so quick.
Yeah,
Also, I heard that there was like some tech issues on the back end of like live streaming them.
the first
So,
one was
yeah.
yep,
Y-
yeah. So I just,
Um,
like, didn't even watch the first one
yeah.
'cause Andrew was with me, and I'm, like, trying to focus, but it wouldn't load, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll have
It's
the
gonna be a
recording."
comeback type of thing.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. One of the biggest takeaways I had from that conference was like, what can you offload and like outsource, which I think
Yeah.
as a business owner can seem maybe like lazy or like, oh, I can do it. Like I want to save the money.
Mm,
But honestly, sometimes you hurt yourself in the long run by not outsourcing and you end up spending more money. And your
yep.
time is so valuable. And so that was a really big takeaway I had.
Yeah.
So I guess, it goes in hand with accounting or
Yep.
like content creation, like whatever it may be. If there's
Yeah.
someone better out there, then you should
Mhm.
probably hire them.
Yeah. Yeah, I've hired out my product photography because one, we live in a farmhouse, and so it's an old farmhouse, and
Mm,
so, like, windows are small and scarce.
Okay, yes.
And so it's like lighting is hard. And then, if you turn on like a light switch, we have, the bright yellow lights and it's not the most attractive thing in a picture. And I'm like, okay, you know, I've hired someone who can help me take great product
Mhm.
pictures. I send her my product and I trust that she's going to take the pictures I need and I get them back and I'm like, dang,
Yeah.
this is so much better than what I ever could ever do. Um,
Yes.
so that's yeah, just kind of like make a list. Another thing within my business that I'm outsourcing is going to be like babysitting and daycare. And like you're like, how does that go with your business? Freeing up my time to be able to give
Mhm.
myself more time to work.
Yes.
And so working with just trying to figure that out
Yes, the
and right now.
balance. Well, I'm proud of
Of
you
what,
because I feel like as a new mom, that can be hard to do, but also like your business is so amazing. Like you've created such a
yeah,
great foundation and
yeah,
business that people love. And so it's really awesome that you're like, okay, like I love my baby,
yeah,
but somebody can love on him for a couple hours while I work,
yes, yeah,
which is so great. And yeah, I as well am going to outsource my photography in the
mhm,
coming launches because I have like professional cameras, which are great. And I love
mhm,
photos and stuff, but I've realized product photos are just not my jam. And they
yeah,
are like a whole different breed. Like,
exactly.
posing somebody with a product is different than just like a flat lay. And to
Yep.
like draw people in to like your photos sell your product. And so
Mhm.
if your photos are kind of meh, then like why would anyone invest in it or see the quality of it?
Yeah.
And so that was another big takeaway from the conference of just like outsourcing is so crucial. People can do it better than you. So like why not let them?
Yep, absolutely, yeah, and then, like you said earlier, like, if you free up that time, so say we would spend 2 or 3 hours trying to take pretty flat lays where we could
Yes.
outsource someone who might take them 30 minutes, to just depending on how many products
Right.
you're sending, um, it's like that frees up our 2 hours, and for me, that 2 hours is nap time, so it's like I could be
Totally.
focusing my 2 hours on something else while my son is sleeping.
Yeah,
So,
that's so good.
like,
Another one
work
I've
smarter,
been
not harder.
thinking of, do you feel like you spend a lot of time packaging your orders or do you enjoy that
Yeah,
or what do you feel about that?
it's hard. It really, I mean, obviously, like being a small business owner, especially in the product-based business, orders fluctuate so
Mhm.
much. And
Mhm.
so, like, when you do a launch, it's like you usually have more orders coming in than
Totally.
like maybe in your regular season. Um, and so I've been trying to like I am more so guilty on like trying to stay on top of it.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Because like being a mom, and then like once Andrew goes to bed, I'm like I just want to go lay in bed and do nothing.
Oh yeah.
So just finding that routine of what for me has been like packing orders in the morning when Andrew's like happy and alive and he's alive. You know what I mean?
I
Like
love that.
happy and awake and energetic and
Yes.
just like he'll sit in his bouncer seat in my office and we'll work. But packing orders, God willing, as my business grows, will be
Mhm.
something like to outsource.
Yeah.
Um,
I know. I worked for Ascension Press for a hot minute for like 6 months, and I was in their inventory like warehouse management side of things. Um, and I just learned a lot about warehouses, the
mhm.
good, the bad, the ugly, right? Like
Yep.
it's good because you get to offload that to somebody, but it's bad because they're so expensive. Like
Mhm.
every little thing you want them to do is like a dollar, dollar, dollar.
Yep.
And then it's just less customized. And so I've
Mhm.
been like, huh, like for the holidays, I'd rather like almost just like hire some friends
Yep.
to come in and like pay
Yep.
them a generous hourly rate,
Yeah.
um, to have them packaged. Cause I'm like, oh, I just feel like that's the special part of small businesses is like the
The
packaging,
memories.
like
Yeah.
having that personal touch on them, you know?
Yep, yep. Yeah, and then if you get to bring in your friends, like, that's, like, creating memories and not, like like, yeah, it might feel stressful, but if you can, like, make it fun and, if it's the holidays, turn on the Christmas music and, like,
Yeah.
although what might seem stressful, like, it can be really fun, and so, yeah, I have a little sister that I'm hopefully gonna help have rope her in,
Yeah. You're like,
have her
come
help
on.
over the holidays too.
Uh-huh.
Just because, I mean, she's busy with sports, but she should be done with volleyball in a month. So,
So you're
yeah.
like, surely you'll have time to come help me.
Yeah, either come pack orders or hold my child,
Yeah,
okay?
seriously. There you
Choose.
go, your babysitter. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
she's my son's godmother, so
Oh,
I'm like,
cute.
you just you keep him content and feed him and play with him and I'll do
Yes.
the work. That's
That's
fine with me.
amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
So I know you and I have chatted in the past, just like on calls and texts and stuff, which you've been such a sweet like internet Instagram friend to have. But like, orders fluctuate in product-based
Mhm.
businesses.
Yeah.
So I feel like a good question is how do you work to like have consistent orders? What do you
Mhm.
do to like drive orders for the day?
Yep. Yeah, I would say I one thing that I've noticed throughout, so I started my business in like December, Christmas of 2018.
Okay.
And I started making with like, so I had a Cricut and I wanted to make like planner stickers and cute,
Mm-hmm.
like the Erin Condren planners and like,
Yes.
so that's what I started with. And then in 2019, I shifted into like the water bottle stickers.
Yes.
um, anyways, where I'm going with this is throughout like, so I started Abundantly Yours was technically Stick with Wit was my old business.
Oh,
Um, um, and so yeah, it's been over 4 years running this. And Instagram rolled out Instagram stories. When was that? I don't even remember. Like
yeah.
a while ago.
Yeah.
But I would say Instagram stories are so, so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you just think of, okay, I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see this product ad that I like, you go to the Instagram profile and there's not a single thing about the creator of this product. I'm going to just X out and find
Mm-hmm.
someone else who's personable. And I think that's one thing that's super, super um, huge in like our society today, and especially like our generation of women. We want to know where our money is going,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to know like who's creating this, who's doing this.
Yeah.
So showing up on Instagram stories, I'm not the greatest at it because mom life. One
Yeah.
thing I'm working on outsourcing in the next couple months. Um, but I really would say like connecting with people on Instagram stories, asking them questions, showing your products,
Mm-hmm.
I think is powerful. And it might be like, is that like that easy? And I'm like, sometimes I try to prioritize stories over actual posts
Mm-hmm.
just for that consistency for my customer base.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I agree. I have had mixed thoughts on reels. I feel like
Mhm.
the reels for a while, like maybe 7, 8 months ago, were like the way to go, like the gold, right? Like post a reel and like it was gaining a lot of traction algorithm. But now I feel like they're not, it's like there's the ones that do really well, but then a lot of
Yep.
them just get kind of like average views. But I would agree with you, like stories through and through, like anything to have that personal touch with someone um, is the way to go, especially, yeah, for our generation. I at church was talking to some ladies and they were telling me how people our age, they either like to buy like the niche like handmade things, or they go for the like luxury products like Gucci, Prada, like that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And I was like, that is two very far extremes, but I think it is so true. Like you
Yeah.
have like the girls that really love the name brands, and then the girls that really love and care for like you said, where their money's going, but then also like the creativity, like the intentionality
Yeah.
behind the piece and stuff.
Yeah, it's just say for example, like I'm just gonna use jewelry because it's
Mm.
like an easy example. It's like, okay, I'm never someone to go on Amazon to look for jewelry. Like, no. And like Sydney's honestly my go-to girl. I'm so excited to like raid her booth at Seek. Like, what are these and this and this and
Oh,
this. I like ever since getting my colors done. I don't know if you've heard of House of Color.
yes.
My sister's actually becoming a stylist, so that's exciting.
Oh, that's so
But
cool.
so mine is gold, like that's my
Yeah,
color. I'm in autumn, so I'm like Sydney has all the gold jewelry. I'm
I
buying it all
do.
from her. So I'm so excited to just. I'm like, okay, I could shop online, but I'm like, I'm gonna see her in person. So
Yes.
one, save on shipping, but two, like the hype.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, I know. It's way better to shop in person because I always tell girls when they come to my like pop-up events, like try it on, make sure you love it. Like I want you to like feel it. Like, is this something like you're gonna wear every day? Because that's how you really know you love it. And for all my silver girlies, I posted the other day, I was like, I'm working so hard for you because all my suppliers like just don't love silver. Like I wear gold. Actually, most of America, females wear gold. It's a
Yep.
stat.
Yep.
But there are girls that wear silver. And so I am working to diversify more. And like we have silver pieces, but very few in
Yep.
comparison to our gold pieces. So,
The gold. Yeah. I know. And that's another thing I feel like within the starting a business is kind of like choosing your product and
mm,
like how you're going to make it, right?
yeah.
Like, are you going to be the one making it or are you going to find a manufacturer to make your product? Because, like, say, for example, I just use like stationery, like paper products
Mhm.
as an example. Some girls like print out all of the, individual papers for their notepads and they glue them
Yeah,
together and make them all themselves. But then you also have the option of outsourcing. So,
right.
outsourcing might bring a greater cost, but once again, that's lowering your time of having to
Mhm.
do that. So you're essentially, paying that employee or paying that factory, that machine to make your product for you, and
Mhm.
then in turn, you're getting more time to spend elsewhere
Yeah.
because, like, within a business, there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, and the quality control. I mean, I have one of
Mhm.
your notepads, the God is good or God is so good with the cute
Yep,
smiley faces. I love
yep.
it. Use it every day to do my little like to-do lists.
Yep.
But I think a huge thing, maybe we could go into like manufacturing because I know we
Mm.
both used to hand make, but now
Yep,
we are slowly moving towards manufacturing of certain
yep.
designs and pieces. One of the things I'm most excited about is quality control, like
Mhm.
knowing that the quality is going to be so much higher,
Yep.
um, as well as just like the quality, but then like just the overall product itself is just
Yeah.
better. I don't know.
Exactly, yeah. No, because with most manufacturing, they have a quality control department,
Right,
right?
that's
Like,
true.
they're like, my rosaries, they check over every single rosary before it's shipped
Hmm.
to me,
Hmm.
and so it's like, that's peace of mind for me that they're going through making sure there's no defective beads in the rosary. They're making sure, everything is lined up and, 10 beads on every decade,
Right.
those types of things for me. So when I know I get them here, I'm able to just stock them and up my inventory, and I'm not having to, spend the time making them myself. I do have to say, outsourcing product was the first like big outsourcing
Mm,
thing that I've done, and it was the best decision ever.
yeah.
Especially like rosary making is very tedious, and
Yes.
having a baby, and just like with my new season of life being a mom, I desire more time with my son. I desire to, when I am at home with him during the days, to not be focused on, I have all these rosaries to make for all these orders.
Mm,
It's no, I get to just be present with my son because I made the decision to pay someone else to make my rosaries.
yeah. And you're still
Um,
making money, which is the beautiful part, right?
yes,
Like if you do
yes,
your margins right, which everyone should, it's
yep,
also a really great business tip starting out.
yep,
Then you don't have to worry about like losing a couple dollars on outsourcing it because you're
mhm,
like, well, I'm gaining that back with my time.
yes. And then kind of going off of the product outsourcing. So if you're hiring out all of your product creation, all your manufacturing, in more of like a factory type setting, that gives you more time to hire maybe another person to help with marketing instead of
Mm,
having to hire them for product creation, right?
yeah.
So if typically in your factory and your manufacturing type situations, they have your minimum order quantity, and then the more you order, the cheaper it is, which is a great thing for business owners. Um, and so in turn, you're able to spend maybe, yeah, like an extra dollar or two on each product. And then, yeah, like I had said, like you don't have to hire someone to help make the product. You're able
Hmm.
to maybe hire someone for marketing or hire the accounting or hire the product photography. Like there's so many things within business we could
Yeah.
hire out. And I
It's
have a
amazing.
list. I have that like dream, but it is so nice not having to make all the products to start. But if you're a startup business, that's typically what you have to do, right? You kind
Yeah.
of have to pick your battles.
100%. So did you ever start on Etsy?
Mhm.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, yep. So I started everything was on Etsy.
So did I.
Uh,
We should talk
yeah,
about that, like Etsy versus maybe a website.
yeah, for sure. I would say when people ask me for advice, I'm like Etsy.
Hmm.
It's a great way to test your market. You're still able to send your link. So if you have your Instagram, if you have a good amount of followers, you're still able to send them to your Etsy shop. It's not like, I mean, Etsy does take some of the profit, but maybe just mark up your product a couple more dollars,
Mm,
right?
100%. Yeah, I would agree. So I started on Etsy too. And
Mhm.
then after like my first semester of college, I looked at the fees that they had taken from me and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is ridiculous.
Yep.
Because it can look ridiculous when your
Mhm.
products aren't priced correctly and
Yes.
somebody's taking, I mean, the Etsy fees kind of are slightly ridiculous to me,
Yeah.
but they're
Yep.
worth it, right? Because it's like a whole
Yes.
customer base coming to you for free
Mhm.
in a way. And
Yeah.
so I closed down my Etsy, opened up on Shopify, and I was so happy with that. It was so great. But then joined this mastermind called Multi-Stream Machine through the Product
Yep.
Boss
Yep,
podcast.
I heard of
Yeah,
that.
they're so great. And their whole thing is like multi-streams, like how many streams can you have through your business. So we launched on Amazon, I reopened my Etsy, and then Shopify. And at first when I was opening my Etsy, I was like kind of like, oh, this is so annoying, like why are they having me
Uh-huh.
do this? But it's been so great because even if it's just like one order a day or one order a week, like that's one order that I wouldn't have had otherwise, because my like Shopify website is linked to my Instagram, but then
Mhm.
like girls that are or guys that are finding me on Etsy,
Yep.
those are people that wouldn't be my like customers from Instagram or from my
Yeah,
own following. So that's been something really cool. Um, and I don't know if you still have your Etsy open
I
or
do.
not. Okay, good.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
But one of my friends, she was launching on Shopify her own website, and she was like, we're closing our Etsy, and I messaged her and I was like, hey, just piece of advice here, like I would actually keep it open, because if you already have traction, like why not like have those two
Yep.
streams,
Yep.
um
Yeah.
and so that would be another piece of advice, is once somebody has already gotten to a point where they can launch their own website, like just keep what's already working going as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I know I've listened to, I don't know, there's millions of YouTube videos out there. So if you're trying to figure out how to start an Etsy shop, that's where I would go.
Yes.
There's so many incredible women who have YouTube channels who have an entire playlist of how to start an Etsy shop and how to optimize it. Because I feel like that's one thing I get is like, well, how do you do it? I'm like, just go to YouTube. That's how
Yep,
I learned.
that's what I
I'm
do.
like, I could spend hours and
Yeah.
hours and hours like telling you what to do. And like the nice thing with the YouTube videos, you can stop and start and replay and go and rewatch and those types of things. And so, yeah, Etsy's been super nice because it's like, yeah, I have my rosaries on there and randomly like, yeah, someone might buy 2 or 3 rosaries, which it's like that's like you said, it's a customer I
Yeah.
wouldn't have had prior. And then if they love the rosaries, you have a call to action within your package, like a business card, where to follow, if you have a
Right.
discount code for your website, those types of things. People are more inclined to, follow and share. And I kind of have something on my thank you card of like, I'd love for you to take me on your Instagram stories showing off your
Mm.
products, what you
Mhm.
got. And I'll occasionally have people from Etsy do that. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
never would have guessed.
Yeah.
Random customers would do that,
I
right?
know. Yeah, it's
So
so cool.
cool.
It's interesting too. I've noticed like people on Etsy a lot of times have higher like order values.
Mhm.
And that's because the average Etsy customer is a lot of moms.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
I know some moms, and they always order on Etsy, like for everything,
Yep.
which is so great
Yep.
that they like are so intentional to like shop small and
Mhm.
handmade and all the things. But
Yep.
um yeah, so that's an interesting thing too. But yeah, definitely Etsy is your friend when you price your products correctly. And so is
Yes,
Shopify, your own website, all
absolutely.
the things.
Yeah, and I even have my, like, rosaries on Etsy are 2 or $3 more than they are
Yeah.
my website for the sake of the fees.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
do too.
and I had my sports rosaries on my Etsy shop, and I was charging my average price that I do on my website, and the demand was so high. And
Mm.
so I increased my price a couple of dollars because that's what I was listening to the Product Boss
Yeah.
podcast. It's a great one to listen to. And they're like, if the demand is there, just, add $2 to your product. Like,
Right.
after you sell 10 of those, if you add $2, that's an extra 20 bucks,
Yeah. Yeah.
So if
Testing
the
the
demand is
market.
there, yeah, make sure you price your products right, which is huge because I think when we probably both first started out, we're like, someone wants to pay this for this product? Like, no way. Like, that's not like just me, this little tiny business owner who wants to spend that. But it's like,
Yeah.
don't like undervalue yourself in your work.
Yeah, so true. A great example is back in the day when I first started my business, one of our best selling earrings were $12. Okay, $12. Did I make a lot of profit on them? No, but I didn't really understand the like breakdown with like how to successfully like mark up your product at like a good income rate, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And so I actually use Etsy one kind of as like a test pricing market, because it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, if people are buying this necklace happily at $20, why am I
Yep.
not charging $20 for
Yep.
this on my website? And like,
Yep.
yes, Etsy has fees, but we have to pay a fee to Shopify for every
Yep.
order, and we have to pay
Yep.
a yearly fee. So in the end of the day, it's like, as a business owner, we get the privilege, I guess, to mark up, adjust, mark up, mark down your prices. And at the conference, Heart Conference, they actually talked a lot about like fluctuating your prices, like playing with the market, like seeing how that goes. And I thought that was so interesting because I was like, I've never thought of that. Like in my mind, it's like you set the price and that's the price. But it's like,
Yep,
well, you also have to look at like the environment we're in right now, like inflation. Like if
yep,
we're not being considerate of like our groceries are inflating in price, like why are our products not inflating in price? You know?
yep, yep. That's such a smart, like, that's just a good thought of, like, a good thing to consider within your business of, yeah, or is your bills right? That's really smart. I never really, like, put it into that perspective of,
Yeah.
you know.
It's hard though, because it's like and you think of rent, like rent, I mean, every market is different, but like rent
Yeah.
typically raises, I want to say from my real estate knowledge back in the day, I want to say
Uh-huh.
it was like 5%. I could be so wrong. But it's like usually like 100, 200, even more dollars a month that it'll raise. And so
Yep.
it's like, well, okay, if that's raising, like what am I changing in my income to like help meet that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so smart. Something that's oh gosh, I feel like I haven't ever really, like, considered that. Like, we always talk about, yeah, bills are getting more expensive. Yeah, there's more things to pay for,
Yeah.
you know? And then it's like, am I actually making that within my business? So
Yeah.
that's a good thought.
Kind of like a toxic cycle, but you know.
Right? Yeah. And I know kind of one thing that has been sometimes stressful for me with Etsy and Shopify is, like, managing inventory.
Mm,
So, like, if I have, just say for example, like 20 stickers of this design available, right? And then I have, like kind of either splitting the inventory on Etsy and Shopify. And I do know that there's some tools and apps you can connect within to help like sync that stuff so
mm,
that way you can manage your inventory easier. Um, but that's one thing that I feel like is important is just like knowing, okay, well, how much inventory do I start with? And like we had mentioned, Etsy is a great place to just like test out everything.
mhm.
Um,
Yes, I
Shopify is what, $30 a month?
I just pay per year, and it's
Okay,
like
yeah.
350 or 390, I want to say. Does that
I
sound
think
right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably right.
I love Shopify. Love Shopify. I think they're great. I think it's really good for markets too.
Yes.
Like I don't know why, but I got a free POS system. Did you get a free POS system?
I didn't. I just, well, like the POS app that
The
goes with
like
it.
card reader?
I didn't get mine for free.
No, I think
I
I
got,
got mine during like a promo deal or something.
mm,
But yeah, because then the second one I got, I had to pay for. But I
yeah,
love how it's linked. And at Seek
mm,
last year, there was some vendors that they used like a Square card reader, but it
yeah,
didn't link directly like to their website or something like that.
mm,
Or like like it didn't, it just wasn't integrated completely. And so that's where I'm like, Shopify is so great because they have
mm,
everything you need to like
yep,
run a successful business, which I appreciate, like the plugins of like you were saying, like the integration between Etsy and Shopify.
yep,
I as well don't do the best at tracking inventory between Etsy and Shopify, but
yeah,
that's
I struggle.
something I need to get good at because with the holidays, like I want to make sure like if someone's ordering 5 necklaces on Etsy that like I actually have that, in stock
Yeah,
somewhere between the two.
yep, for sure. I would totally, totally agree. Yeah, POS systems are the best. I am working on getting like a different card reader for Seek.
Mm,
I'm just working on kind of like the setup, and that's like it's fun but stressful.
yes.
Um, like just figuring out how I want to display everything, and then
Yeah.
like I'm excited to like make a little checkout stand
Yeah,
and like
so fun. I had so
it's so
much
fun.
fun last year, like dreaming it up, and I still, I said that I was gonna do this like 2 months ago, but hopefully in the next like week or two, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop and just like sit down
Mm,
and like draw out like the display and everything. Cause so I was hippie to you. My business was at Seek last year, and it was so great, and I'm really excited for Whitney, abundantly yours to be there. It's gonna be so fun.
it's so fun.
Um, but yeah, like when you've never been before, it's kind of like, what the heck? Like, do I do for this? Like, what is the expectation? Like, how do I want to display everything? And like how to get unique with it, you know? And so it's hard because last year I like honestly loved my display. Like I worked so hard on it. I had a friend who's super talented at woodwork. Shout out Emma. She created like these arc boards for me that like my dad turned into a pegboard, and then from
Yep.
there, like my whole family, we sorted all the jewelry
Mm.
literally the night before we left for Seek, and like practice setting it up in the basement with like a 10
Yeah,
by 10 outline on the floor. So I'm like, this year, I'm like, what do I do? Because I loved my last year's setup so much. Like,
yeah.
I felt like everything flowed so well. And so now I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I like step it up, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm excited. I do pop-ups a lot, and that's
Yeah.
kind of maybe another business tip too is, um, one of my friends that I've met, she actually designed my logo, my Stick with Wit logo,
Mhm.
I don't know, many years ago. I also do branding and website design, so I have
Oh,
kind of 2
cool.
businesses. And so it's a whole different ballgame with product-based and service-based, I can
Yeah.
tell you that. Um, but she does tons and tons of markets. She's doing them like every weekend. And she has so much success that with her markets that she has been able to like she had like a corporate job, like corporate design. She's
Mhm.
been able to go to part-time with that because of
Wow.
like her markets and like doing in-person things. So Seek is quite an investment to get there.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Oh, I
Um,
would not recommend Seek for
a
anyone that's
baby
been in
business.
business less than probably 3 years.
Yes, yes, I
It
would agree.
is a beast, just
Yeah.
in so many ways.
I can imagine. I attended NCYC when I was in high school in Indianapolis. I don't know. I think they do it like every year in like, I don't know. It's different now.
Yeah.
But it was in person and it's like a Sikh vibe,
Oh, yeah.
but not, I don't think as big. I can't remember. I think they said like 12,000 students or like high school students were there. So kind of this still like
Yeah.
large thing. And they had kind of like, the Mission Way, like all the different like
Yeah.
vendors and things set up. So I kind of have seen that before. And I'm like, I can't even imagine the madness at Seek.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I live in small town, rural Nebraska. So as I'm speaking, there's like hundreds of cows out my window, not people. So it's I have to do a lot of traveling to get to these events. You know, usually on average an hour or two away
Wow.
on Saturdays, and so I just like doing it because it gives me kind of like a little bit of an outlet as a mom to have like kind of a day to myself, but also like get to do what I love with my business.
Yeah, that's so
Um,
sweet.
so that's something to look into. Search Facebook groups. So like the Nebraska one is Nebraska Craft and Vendor Shows, and then
Oh,
like all the people hosting them put the information in the group.
that's perfect.
So do look out for scams because there's those people out there who post like scam events,
Oh
but
my
like
gosh.
you can find some great events through word of mouth too. Ask fellow parishioners if they know of other
Yeah.
Catholic like pop-ups, because they do a lot of Catholic schools do them for their own like fundraisers. And there's also there's everywhere, especially like I think of like Omaha and Lincoln. I'm like, I can't even imagine how many pop-ups are happening
Yeah.
every week there.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
that's so good. Obviously, Seek is a special one because it's like so big, but I
Mhm.
think at the same time like that's like once a year. And
Yeah.
so finding ones that are like smaller like farmers markets and all the things, but you do have to be for some of them like at least from Minnesota like very proactive on them. Like the Prior Lake Farmers Market was so good for me.
Yep.
I loved being there. Also, I grew up there, so I have like a lot of connections to just like
Yes.
the community, which is really great. But it's like very competitive to get into, which
Mhm.
I don't
Yep.
experience with all pop ups.
Yep.
But like very much like you have to apply, and I think like February for the summertime. And so it's like
Mhm.
you got to commit. But
Yep.
yes, Facebook groups, and then I just look online too, or like
Yeah.
Instagram. And
Mhm.
then actually moving to Dallas, I was like, oh shoot, like I don't know any of the good markets. Like I want to choose ones that are like worth my time.
Yeah.
And so at the gym, I was talking with this girl, like, oh, I own a jewelry business, yada yada. And she's like, oh my gosh, you would love my friend Rachel. She owns like a macrame business. And I was like, oh my gosh, can I get her number? And she's like, yeah, she does all these at farmers markets, events. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to meet up
Yep.
with Rachel. And so
Yeah.
we met up and she was so kind and was like, okay, like these are the ones you really want to like do. Like they have really good like attendance because I have been to markets where they're totally an awful event. Like there's no
Yep.
people that come by. My
Yep.
sales weren't good, but it's also like, well, how are you supposed to know? You know? And so
Mhm.
I never
Yep.
like get super. I'm not like mad about it. I'm just like, dang, like obviously. I wish it was busier, but I usually bring like my laptop or like a book in case it's like dead so that
Yep.
way I can like still work on something while I'm there in case it's like super, super slow.
Yep, I do the same. I always have my laptop with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was at one this last weekend. We were chatting before we started recording, and it was pretty slow. I did this one 2 years ago, and it was pretty good for me. And so it's like, okay, like, years changed. Like, there was a home Nebraska football game that day and a volleyball game.
Oh, wow.
So, like, granted, we were, I'm 3 hours from Lincoln, and where I
Yeah.
was at was like an hour and a half from Lincoln. So, like, but people like Nebraska football and volleyball is a huge thing here.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, that could have been a thing. It's also like harvest and everyone is in the fields. It's like our last
Yeah.
like day of nice weather, I
Yeah.
think, for like the winter, which is sad. It's like gonna be 75, and I think we're gonna be get hit with 40s here this week. Um, Yay, Nebraska.
Yeah. In Nebraska.
North Nebraska, Northeast Nebraska. But yeah, I would definitely say like pop-ups are hit or miss, but like once again, you're never gonna know until you try it.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to kind of give an example. So there's a big market in Iowa that I did for the first time this year. It was their third year doing it. The first year they had 1,500 like shoppers. The year after that they had 3,000. This year we got stuck with a rainy day, and it's an outdoor event. So me being a first year like attendee, I was like, wow, like this was just average. Like, okay. And I went around and like walked to the other booths. I was drenched, like soaked in rain. It was great. And I was talking to him like, don't let this year be the year that like discourages you from coming back next year. And so like if you've heard that from other people, like at the show, like, oh, this year, like it's usually a better event, but this just must be an off one. It might be a good thought to give it like a consideration to go back
Yeah, that's
to
good
that
advice.
event. My thing is like, okay, did I cover my gas money and my fee to get in?
Yeah.
So, depending on the market. So, like, a lot of the ones I do are smaller. So, like $40 and then like gas. So, maybe it's like $80 total for me to
Mm-hmm.
like be there. If I make $100, cool. I at least made back what I paid.
Yeah.
I got some exposure. I got the day to kind of like experiment with my business. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all a constant learning. It's just
Yeah.
constant learning
I
within
love
business.
that. I love that. I also, if a market is super slow, I'll use it as like an opportunity to like go on my Instagram stories and be like, okay, like people don't know. I mean, some people would know I'm at a market, but others might just think I'm maybe outside or something.
Mhm.
But I'll
Yep.
just like prop my phone up on my booth and be like, okay, like this is this necklace, and then start chatting about products or like create new marketing content by taking
Yep.
photos and stuff. Cause I'm like, well, it's really slow, so I might as well just like make the most of it.
Do something. Yeah, or, like, take a quick video of your reel
Yeah.
of your booth and turn it into a reel, because it's, like it's kind of a different, like, perspective of shopping for your customers, right? Like,
Mhm.
you see more so, like, gift shops doing, like, Facebook Lives to promote their
Yeah.
product, and, like, boutiques. It's, like, kind of the same thing, but they're just getting a different look at all of your products together.
Yeah.
So some people, like, really love that. Like, I posted, um, an Instagram story of my stickers, I think.
Mhm.
Sorry, yawning. To my Instagram story, and someone's like, "Hey, like, I want 2 of those." So,
Mm.
like, if I would've posted that, she wouldn't have seen, like, all my stickers
Right.
together.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, sometimes, like, if you do, like a if, you have your table layout done and you do, like, the overlay, like, people are like, "Wait, like, what was that pair of earrings, like, in the upper corner?" And it's, like,
Yep,
funny because it's like, well, those are on my website. They have been for months, but
yep,
people seeing them in a different light, they might be like, "Oh, like, those are cute," you know?
yeah,
And so, yeah, that's such good advice.
mhm. Yeah, I feel like yeah, business is just a constant, like, learning process,
Mhm.
And it's like I feel like it's the heart they made like, the couple talks that I got through of, like, talking
Yes.
someone in the Q&A asked about, like, failing or something, like, "What if I fail?"
Mhm.
And she's like, "I don't believe in failure, like, it's just like, you're learning from maybe a mistake, and it's just a constant, like, trial and error, like, that's what business is. It's,
Right.
"Did this product work? No? Okay, well, then I'll sell that inventory and not bring it back. Did this
Mhm.
product work? What are people loving?" And, like, leaning into, like, your best sellers, and then kind of, like, just, you know, figuring out and testing products on the side, and yeah, like, literally business in entrepreneurship is just trial and error. Same thing with marketing. It's like,
Mhm.
did that real work? Yes. Well, let's create something similar to that and see if that works. Like
Yeah.
that's literally what it is.
Yes.
And I myself overcomplicate it way too much. I'm like overthinking, and my husband always laughs at me because I'm like, "You're just a woman. You overthink everything." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"I know, I know, I know."
You're like, "It happens." Yes.
Yes. But yeah, I just trial and error. If
Yeah.
you know, have something that fails, like, learn from it and, like, try it differently. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I love the saying failing forward. Like even if you
Mm,
fail, you're like moving one step forward because you're like moving one step closer to the thing that could be like your bestseller or your biggest hit. And so I think that's always encouraging. Is like I wouldn't say I'm afraid of failure because I'm like, well, I'm far from perfect, like we all are,
yeah.
and I'm gonna do things that don't turn out good. And if that
Mhm.
happens, like that's okay because it's all a learning experience. And like I've built my business on like literally trial and error, and so is everyone else. Like you
Yeah.
don't know unless you try, so like why not try?
Yep. Amen. Seriously. And I think one thing that's helped so much in business, especially running, like, I run a very solely Catholic-based
Mm-hmm.
business, is, like, letting God lead you in, like, just business. And so, 3 of my, like, product lines within my business are focused around 3, like, Bible verses and, like, um, kind of just, like, moments I've had with God,
Mm-hmm.
and just, like, things that we've had together. And so, like, my business name is Abundantly Yours. That came to me through praying the rosary. God gave me that name
Mm-hmm.
through praying the rosary, hence I sell rosaries. And so that also ties in with, like, John 10:10. So I have, like, a
Yeah.
whole abundant life line within my business, and then I have, like, a He is faithful, like, line, because that's, like, always just been so prominent in my life of, like, recognizing the Lord's faithfulness because, like, he's showing up for me daily, even though I, like, sometimes just brush it off and, like, that's not God, but yeah, that's God doing that, like,
Mm-hmm.
that it's he's being faithful to me. And the other one is, oh gosh, Remain in Me in John 15. That was our wedding gospel, and then
Oh.
it also was my, like, fruitful was my word of the year for 2022. So, like, I kind of just have, like, this whole, like, different collections based off of, like, my own personal experience and my own journey with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so just, like, inviting God into your business has so much power, and just being like, "Lord, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to serve these women who have followed me on Instagram?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, not worrying about who else I need to serve, but who, like, what am I creating for these specific people?
Yes.
And just really leaning into that, I think, has so much, not just power, but it brings so much peace within business of, like, God's got it figured out, like,
Mm-hmm.
I just have to show up, I have to move the car forward, and he'll lean it or drive it in the right direction.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's always convicting when I'm like, why haven't I prayed over my business today? You
Uh-huh.
know, and so I think as business owners, we should every day pray over our
Yeah,
business, whether it be a rosary or just, a simple prayer.
yeah.
And God does big things. I am always convicted because I'm like in mass Lord, I was like, Lord, I just pray for like X amount of orders today so that I can
Mhm.
like glorify you through these orders. And then like that's it. I was like, okay, God, like I
Yeah.
see these orders coming in. And so that was hype, but it's like, well, not every day I remember to pray. And I'm like, why don't I do that? So
Uh-huh.
it's always such a good
Yeah.
reminder.
Yep. Exactly. And then something that I am guilty with is, like, going to prayer for something and not, like,
Mhm.
to be with God,
Yeah, that's
right?
so
And,
good.
um, like, recognizing that, like, God can do, like, anything, like,
Hmm.
he's God, but also remembering that, like, we also must run to prayer to also, like, be his daughter too. Like,
Hmm.
sometimes as a business owner, I'm, like, constantly going to God, like, "What am I supposed to do? How do I be successful? How do I bring in more money? Like,
Hmm.
how do I do this?" And it's like,
Hmm.
"Okay, wait," like, back when I graduated college, I went on a retreat with my husband, and we had, like, 3 hours of silent time, and I'm just, like, twiddling my thumbs, like,
Yeah.
freaking out, like, "What am I supposed to be doing?" And I had one of the, women who was working the retreat came up to me and just, like, really affirmed me through, like, my podcast, and it was, like, silent time, but she, like,
Oh.
still talked. And so I went to my room, and I was just, like, bawling, and I'm like, "God, what am I supposed to do?" Because I graduated college the day before that.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
"What do you want me to do for you?" He's like, "I just want you to be my daughter." I'm
Oh.
like, "No, that's not what I wanted you to say," right? But, like, remembering that, like, before, like, we are not business owners first, like, just really I've been really working on prioritizing my vocation
Mm.
of, like, daughterhood, motherhood, and wifehood.
Mhm.
Um, And so I think that is just a good reminder too that as a business owner, as a creative, we love what we do, and sometimes it's easy to put that before what is truly like our calling in life.
Mhm.
So just like a little reminder that like we are daughters first before like business owners. I don't
Yes, I love that. It's beautiful.
know. Thank you. Do you have any last advice with business? Anything? Otherwise, I
Um,
can end it with our final question.
I don't think I have any last minute thoughts. I'm
I feel like we
thankful.
covered a lot.
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot. I'm thankful to be on this podcast. I love listening.
Yeah, for sure. So, what is one piece of advice you want every young Catholic woman to know? This can relate to business or not. Um, Feel free to share.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go non-business route. So I converted to Catholicism this past Easter. So I went to RCA this past year, became Catholic at Easter, and I think something that is so beautiful within the Catholic Church is the tradition, the faith,
Mhm.
the relationship, like the deepened relationship with Jesus. The Catholics get to experience through the Eucharist, and so my piece of advice would be if you don't feel like a deep connection to Christ, like go spend time in adoration,
Yeah.
go like renew your relationship with Christ, go to mass, find community, find girls that you like love to hang out with. I think that's the biggest thing is like it can feel really lonely, but if you
Mhm.
find girls that you're like, wait, I love hanging out with them, not just in Bible study, but like out and about running errands and like those girls are pointing you closer to Christ and together you're just like a girl army, like going to heaven.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
um, that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, community is so, so powerful. Like I mentioned earlier, I live on a farm, and so
Mhm.
it does get lonely here. And so I'm
Yeah.
actually working on creating like a moms group with
Oh,
Catholic moms
cute.
in it, just like an online virtual thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, even like just finding someone is so, so powerful. Um, Community, I don't know. I have learned over like the years of just like, you know, going from singleness to relationship to
Mhm.
marriage to motherhood, how much like I do rely on people outside of like my spouse. Like I love
Mhm.
him to death. Like my husband is
Yes.
my best friend, but like we both need community outside of relationship, like our marriage and our relationship. And so yeah, find a group of women. If it is virtual, that's great, but I always strive for like an in
In
person.
person. Yeah.
In person is great too. So
I
great
love it.
advice.
I love it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was so fun to have you on to talk about business. I feel like we could probably talk about this for hours.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yes.
Yes, it was great chatting. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, and before we forget, where can people go shop your jewelry and follow you on Instagram?
Yes. Okay, so you can shop my jewelry at hippydoyou.com, hippydoyou.com. And then at hippydoyou on Instagram. And then my personal account is at Sydney period Tanner. So that's all the
Awesome.
places.
Her Instagram will be in the show description, so you can